The morning my husband fired me from the company we built together, he used a presentation slide. Not a conversation, not a letter, a slide. It appeared behind him on a 40-foot screen in the main auditorium. Meridian 2.0. Building Beyond the Founders. Underneath those words were two photographs. My husband, Daniel Mercer, smiling beneath the title Founder and Executive Chairman. Beside him was a photograph of our new CEO, Adrienne Cole. Her title read, Chief Executive Officer, Leading the Next Era. My photograph was not there. Neither was my name. 300 employees sat around me. Nobody spoke. Then Daniel looked directly at me from the stage and said, As part of this transition, Dr. Evelyn Mercer will conclude her executive role effective immediately. For half a second, nobody understood. I know because I didn't. I sat in the front row with a notebook resting on my lap and a pen between my fingers. The pen slipped. It landed against the concrete floor with a small click. That was the only sound in the room. Daniel continued. Evelyn's contributions to Meridian cannot be overstated. Contributions. 17 years had become contributions, like donated furniture or a holiday gift basket. I looked toward Adrienne. She stood near the side of the stage in a charcoal suit, holding a tablet against her waist. Her expression was controlled, professional. But she did not look surprised. That hurt more than it should have. Daniel changed the slide. A timeline appeared. Every milestone Meridian had ever celebrated. The first clinical trial, the first hospital network, the federal certification, the European expansion, the 10 billionth patient data verification. My work was everywhere. My name was nowhere. Daniel smiled at the audience. Founders build the beginning. Strong companies build beyond them. People began clapping, slowly, uncomfortably. One person near the back stood, then another. Soon, the entire room was applauding. Not because they were happy I had been fired, because employees know when applause is part of survival. I stayed seated. Daniel looked at me. For 17 years, I had known every version of his face. The charming one, the exhausted one, the frightened one, the private one. That morning, he wore the face he used during investor meetings. Warm eyes, calm smile, no visible guilt. Evelyn, he said, would you like to say a few words? I looked around the auditorium. People lowered their eyes. My engineering team sat together near the center. Samir Patel stared at the floor. Maya Chen had tears in her eyes. My assistant, Nora, looked ready to stand up and commit a felony. I closed my notebook. Then I walked onto the stage. Daniel reached for my hand. I ignored it. He moved aside. The microphone was still warm from him. I looked out at the company. Our company. The company that began above a closed bakery in Stamford. The company whose first server sat beside a leaking radiator. The company Daniel and I once cleaned ourselves because we could not afford a janitor. I remembered sleeping under my desk during our first hospital launch. I remembered Daniel bringing coffee at 3 in the morning. I remembered him saying, one day, people will know what you built. People knew Meridian. They knew him. I suppose he had technically kept his promise. I leaned toward the microphone. For 17 years, I said, I believed building something together meant no one person could remove the other from its story. The room became still. Daniel's smile tightened. I continued. I was wrong. Nobody moved. Adrienne watched me carefully. I hope Meridian becomes everything its new leadership believes it can be. Then I looked at Daniel. And I hope all future decisions are made with a complete understanding of what this company owns. His expression changed. Only slightly, but I saw it. A small tension near his eyes. A pause. Then he smiled again. Thank you, Evelyn. I handed him the microphone. As I walked off the stage, Nora stood. She did not clap. Neither did my engineering team. That should have comforted me. It did not. Because 62 days remained on Meridian's core license. and my husband had just fired the only person authorized to renew it. My name is Dr. Evelyn Mercer. For most of my adult life, people introduced me in relation to a man, Daniel's wife, the founder's wife, Mrs. Mercer. Sometimes, at conferences, people assumed I worked in communications. Once, a venture capitalist handed me his empty champagne glass while asking whether Daniel planned to expand into Europe. I took the glass. Then I answered his question in 4 languages. Daniel laughed about it later. You should have seen his face. At the time, I laughed too. That was one of my flaws. I allowed disrespect when it arrived disguised as misunderstanding. It seemed easier, kinder, more mature. I told myself that people eventually learned. Some did. Daniel did not. When we met, neither of us had money. I was 29 and finishing a doctorate in biomedical systems engineering. Daniel was 31 and selling medical software for a company he hated. We met during a hospital technology conference in Boston. He interrupted my presentation, not rudely, enthusiastically. I had developed a verification model designed to catch contradictions in patient medication records. The room was mostly researchers. They asked careful questions. Daniel raised his hand. What happens, he asked, when a rural hospital cannot afford the infrastructure required to use this? I answered honestly. Then the model remains academically successful and practically useless. He smiled. Would you like help fixing that? 3 months later, we were engaged. 8 months after that, we were married. A year later, Meridian began. The original technology belonged to Mercer Applied Research. My mother created the firm before she died. It was small, mostly patents. Research contracts, a laboratory in New Haven. When Daniel and I launched Meridian, our lawyer recommended transferring the technology into the new company. I refused. At the time, my reason was practical. Meridian had no money, no customers, no history. If it failed, I wanted the research protected. So Mercer Applied Research granted Meridian an exclusive license. 3 years. Renewable. The license covered 4 systems: clinical contradiction detection, identity verification, medication conflict mapping, audit chain validation. The technology evolved over time. Meridian paid for engineers. Meridian funded development. But the foundational architecture remained under Mercer Applied Research. Every 3 years, I signed an extension. Nobody worried about it. Why would they? I was Meridian. Daniel was Meridian. Our marriage and the company seemed equally permanent. During the first 7 years, he never forgot to thank me. During the next 5, he thanked me privately. During the last 5, he thanked me only when someone else was listening. Success changes the temperature around people. At first, Daniel and I worked in the same room. Then he moved into an office. Then another floor. Then another building. I stayed close to product development. He stayed close to power. Our marriage followed the same architecture. He began traveling more. I began working later. At home, we discussed quarterly growth, regulatory delays, hiring. We stopped discussing fear or loneliness, or why he no longer reached for my hand beneath restaurant tables. There was no affair. Sometimes I almost wished there had been. An affair gives pain a face. Our marriage eroded through strategy meetings, investor dinners, closed doors, words like scalability, governance, perception. The first time Daniel suggested hiring an outside CEO, we were eating dinner in our house in Westport. He set down his wine. The board wants professional leadership. You are the CEO. They want someone with turnaround experience. Turnaround? Growth transition. I smiled. Companies use nicer words when they are afraid of the truth. He sighed. Evelyn. What? Not every business discussion is an attack. Not every concern is insecurity. His jaw tightened. That was how we argued by then. Carefully, like attorneys trying not to damage property. The investors think we look too founder-dependent, he said. We are founder-dependent. That is the problem. No, it is a fact. They see us as a married couple controlling every important decision. We created every important system. And Meridian needs to mature. I looked at him. What exactly needs to mature? The governance. Or the wife? He stood. Why do you always make this personal? Because it was personal. But I did not say that. Instead, I asked, who are they considering? He hesitated. Adrian Cole. I knew the name. Everyone did. Adrian had led 2 major healthcare technology companies. She was disciplined, respected, severe when necessary. Business magazines called her a crisis architect. Her first company recovered from a regulatory collapse under her leadership. Her second doubled revenue in 4 years. She's good, I said. Daniel relaxed. She is. Does she understand our technology? She understands organizations. That was not my question. She will learn. I picked up my water. And what role would I have? Daniel paused. There are silences that answer before words do. You would continue leading research strategy. Would I report to her? We all would. You are executive chairman. That is different. Why? Because someone needs to manage the board. And someone needs to manage me? That is not what I said. No. I looked at him. It is what you prepared. Adrian joined 6 months later. I expected to dislike her. That embarrassed me. Before meeting her, I had already built a version of her in my mind, younger, ambitious, dismissive. A woman who entered another woman's company and treated history like clutter. I was wrong. Adrienne was 52, 6 years older than me. She had silver beginning at her temples and a habit of reading entire reports before meetings. During our first conversation, she asked questions for 2 hours. Technical questions. Good ones. How many false contradictions can the system produce before clinicians stop trusting it? Depends on the institution. That is not a number. No. Then give me a range. I did. She wrote it down. What happens if Mercer Applied Research stops supporting the core architecture? I looked at her. Why are you asking? Because the contract references ongoing technical stewardship. You read the license? I read everything I sign. I almost smiled. Good. She leaned back. Does Meridian own the engine? No. She nodded. Licensed? Yes. Exclusive? Yes. Term? 3 years? When does it renew? December. She wrote that down too. Then she asked, any reason it would not? I looked through the glass wall toward Daniel's office. No. That was my second failure. I lied. Not to her, to myself. The changes began slowly. My product meetings became strategy reviews, then advisory sessions, then optional consultations. Adrian reorganized engineering. Some changes were necessary, some were overdue. I hated that. It is easier to resent someone when they are incompetent. Adrian was not. She reduced duplicated teams, improved compliance review, ended 3 vanity projects Daniel had protected for years. Employees respected her. I respected her. But every improvement moved me farther from the center. One afternoon, Nora entered my office. Your approval access changed. What? The regulatory release system. I opened my dashboard. My authority had been reduced. Final approval now required Adrienne's signature. I called Daniel. He answered after 4 rings. I'm in a meeting. Why was my release authority changed? Governance update. Without telling me? Adrienne controls operations. Clinical verification is my department. Was. The word was quiet. I stood. What did you say? He sighed. Evelyn, we discussed restructuring. We discussed reporting. Your role is strategic now. My role is whatever you call it after removing the work. That is unfair. No. I looked around my office. You made it accurate. He lowered his voice. Please don't react emotionally. That sentence. Men use it when they want the benefits of your pain without the inconvenience of witnessing it. I said, "Send me the governance changes." Then I hung up. The official removal came 2 months later. The board meeting lasted 47 minutes. Adrienne presented quarterly results. Daniel presented investor expectations. Then the compensation chairman cleared his throat. "We believe simplification is necessary." Simplification. I almost admired the word. "The dual founder operating model creates uncertainty." "What uncertainty?" I asked. "Decision clarity. My decisions are documented. This is about perception." "Whose?" "Investors." Daniel looked at his papers. "Not me." The chairman continued. "We propose transitioning Dr. Mercer from Chief Technology Architect to Founder Emerita and Senior Scientific Advisor." I stared. Founder Emerita? A distinguished role, with no operational authority. Advisory influence, no employees. Independent access, no voting power. The chairman hesitated. Not directly. I looked at Daniel. "Did you approve this?" He finally met my eyes. "This protects your legacy." "My legacy does not need protection from the work." "Evelyn, did you approve it?" "Yes." The room became quiet. Adrienne spoke. "For clarity, I was told this transition had been mutually discussed." I turned toward her. "It was not." She looked at Daniel. He did not respond. That was the first time I saw doubt enter her face. The vote passed. 8-2. I was removed. But not fired. Not yet. For 3 months, I remained in the company. Founder Emerita. A title designed to sound respectful while keeping me away from decisions. I received invitations to events, requests for photographs, awards, no engineering reports, no regulatory meetings, no development access. I became a museum exhibit in my own company. Then Daniel asked me to appear at a healthcare summit. Why? Founder Story Panel. "You removed me from operations. You are still part of the story." "The safe part? What does that mean?" "The beginning." He rubbed his forehead. "Can we not fight about everything?" "We do not fight." I looked at him. "You decide. I notice." That night, he slept in the guest room. 3 weeks later, I received a draft speech from communications. The first sentence said, "Meridian began when visionary entrepreneur Daniel Mercer recognized a gap in hospital safety technology." I read it twice. Then I called the communications director. "Who wrote this?" She hesitated. "It came through the executive office." "Daniel?" "I'm not sure." "Who created the original verification model?" "You did." "Then why does the speech say he recognized the gap?" "I can revise it." "No." I closed the document. "Leave it." The conference happened in Chicago. Daniel sat at the center of the stage. Adrienne sat beside him. I sat at the end. The moderator asked how Meridian began. Daniel smiled. "I met a brilliant researcher with an idea." The audience laughed warmly. He continued. "I realized we could turn that idea into a company." An idea, not a system, not 7 years of research. An idea. The moderator turned to me. "Dr. Mercer, did you ever imagine your research becoming this large?" I looked at Daniel. Then I smiled. "I imagined the technology helping hospitals." "And the company?" "I assumed the people building it would remember who built what." The audience laughed. Daniel did not. Afterward, in the hotel elevator, he said, "You embarrassed me." I answered a question. "You implied I took credit. Did that implication feel inaccurate?" He stared. "You have become impossible." "No." The elevator opened. "I have become audible." 2 weeks later, the board scheduled the auditorium announcement. I knew before entering that something was wrong. My access badge failed at the executive elevator. Security apologized. Then Nora found me. Her eyes were red. "They are terminating your advisory contract." "Why?" Daniel says the transition has become disruptive. Disruptive how? You questioned the origin story publicly. I laughed. One sentence. 17 years. One sentence had become disruption. Then came the presentation. Meridian 2.0. Building beyond the founders. Except one founder remained. The other disappeared. After I left the auditorium, security accompanied me to my office. That was Daniel's idea. He later denied it. My belongings fit into 6 boxes: research notebooks, photographs, awards, a framed print from our first hospital client. Nora stood near the door. "This is insane." "No." I packed a small ceramic model of a human heart. "This is organized. You cannot let them do this. They already did." "What are you going to do?" I opened the bottom drawer. Inside was the licensing calendar. December 15th, 62 days. I placed it in my bag. "Nothing." Nora stared. "Nothing?" "For now." Daniel came home at 9 that night. I sat in the kitchen. My 6 boxes were stacked near the stairs. He stopped when he saw them. "You brought everything home." Security helped. His face tightened. That was protocol. "Of course." "Evelyn." I waited. "You made today harder than necessary." I almost smiled. "I made today harder?" "You knew the company needed a clean transition." "A clean transition." "Yes." "You fired your wife in front of 300 people." "It was a leadership announcement." "You placed my termination on a slide." "We wanted transparency." I laughed. He flinched. "What?" "Nothing." "No." "Say it." "You wanted transparency." "Yes." "Good." I stood. "Then we should have more of it." His expression changed. "What does that mean?" "Did you tell Adrienne Meridian owns the clinical engine?" He froze, only for a second. Then he said, "She understands the corporate structure." That was not my question. "The license is standard." "No." I walked closer. "It is foundational. We fund the development. You fund the application. Our engineers built the current platform on my architecture, which Meridian has used for 17 years. Under license." He looked away. "The renewal is routine." "Is it?" Silence. Daniel studied me. "You would not jeopardize the company." "I did not say I would." "You are implying it." "No." I picked up my coffee mug. "You are remembering it." For the next 30 days, nobody contacted me about the license. That surprised me. Then it frightened me. Either Daniel assumed I would renew, or he assumed I had no choice. Both possibilities insulted me. I returned to Mercer Applied Research. The laboratory had 12 employees. Most had worked quietly beside Meridian for years. When I entered, everyone stood. I hated that. "Sit down," I said. Nobody moved. Then Dr. Lena Ortiz hugged me. "I saw the announcement. I'm fine." "No." She pulled back. "You are standing." That is not the same thing. The license file sat in our legal office, 312 pages. The renewal required one signature, mine. I read every page, not because I needed to, because I wanted to remember. Clause 14.2. Licensor may decline renewal without cause upon expiration of term. Clause 19.4. Clinical continuity transition period, 90 days. Clause 22. Meridian could continue supporting existing installations temporarily. New deployments would stop. Updates would stop. Certification access would freeze. The company would not collapse overnight. Reality is rarely that dramatic. But contracts would pause. Revenue would fall. Investors would panic. Hospitals would ask questions. The share price would suffer. People would lose money, maybe jobs. I closed the file. Lena watched me. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know." "You do." "No." "You built this agreement." That was 17 years ago. "You updated it 3 times." So? So you kept the power. I looked at her. It protected the research. Yes. Meridian could have been sold. Yes. Daniel could have changed. Lena said nothing. I looked down. That sounded better in my head. Evelyn. What? Did you keep the license because it protected the work? Yes. Only? I did not answer. The truth was uncomfortable. Every renewal, our attorneys suggested transferring ownership. Every time, I refused. I used words like independence, scientific integrity, long-term stewardship, all true. But beneath those reasons lived something smaller: fear. I had watched my mother lose credit for research her male partner commercialized. I promised myself nobody would remove my name from my work. So I built a lock and kept the key. Maybe part of me always believed I would need it. On the 41st day, Adrian called. Dr. Mercer? Adrian, I would like to meet. About? The December license? There it was. Does Daniel know you are calling? No. I respected the answer. We met at a hotel restaurant in New Haven, neutral ground. Adrian arrived with 2 binders. She did not order food. You are not renewing, she said. I have not decided. The renewal packet is usually initiated 90 days before expiration. Yes. We are inside 30. Yes. Legal says Mercer Applied Research has not responded. That is correct. She studied me. Daniel says this is emotional. I smiled. Daniel says many useful things. He says you would never interrupt clinical operations. I would not. He says the company can compel renewal. It cannot. I know. That surprised me. You checked. I read the contract. And Meridian does not own what Daniel told the board Meridian owned. I said nothing. Adrian opened the first binder. Investor presentations, acquisition documents, regulatory filings. Each described Meridian's technology as proprietary. Some called it company-owned. Others used careful language: core platform, exclusive architecture, controlled system. Daniel had not always lied directly. He had allowed assumptions to become facts. Adrian pushed a page toward me. This is the representation he made during my hiring process. I read it. All material technology necessary for Meridian's operations is owned or permanently controlled by the company. Permanently. I looked up. He signed this? Yes. He knew. So did you. The words were quiet, accurate. I closed the page. I was not involved in your hiring contract. You knew investors misunderstood the structure. Yes. You corrected them? Sometimes. Sometimes. I leaned back. You came here to accuse me? No. Then why? Because I need to know whether the company I agreed to lead exists. That silenced me. Adrienne continued. I left a stable position for Meridian. I know. I moved my mother to Connecticut. I didn't know. I recruited 12 executives. She looked toward the window. I told employees this company had a future beyond its founders. Her eyes returned to mine. Now I discover one founder can shut down its growth with a signature. I cannot shut down clinical service immediately. That is not the point. No. I folded my hands. It is the consequence. Are you planning to use it? I answered honestly. I wanted to. Adrian's expression did not change. When? The morning they removed my photograph. And now? I don't know. She nodded. That is worse. Why? Because anger has rules. She closed the binder. Uncertainty doesn't. Before leaving, she said, Daniel believes you will protect Meridian because you love what you built. He is probably right. He also believes you will protect him. No. For the first time, Adrian smiled. Good. 3 days later, Meridian's board contacted my attorney. They proposed a 10-year renewal, lower royalty rate, no governance rights, no public acknowledgement. I rejected it. The next proposal offered $50 million. I rejected it. The third offered a permanent technology transfer. 200 million. I stared at the number. Then I asked my lawyer, does the agreement include authorship protections? No. Scientific oversight? No. Independent safety review? No. Then it is not an offer. It is $200 million. It is a burial payment. The board became nervous. The stock price dipped after rumors reached analysts. Employees began messaging me. Some supported me. Some begged. One engineer wrote, "My wife is pregnant. Please tell me whether I still have a job." I read the message at 2 in the morning, then again at 3. Revenge looks clean from far away. Up close, it has names, mortgages, children, medication, retirement accounts. The following morning, Daniel came to the laboratory. Lena refused to let him inside. I met him in the lobby. He looked exhausted, tie loose, eyes red. "Your board meeting went well?" I asked. "Stop." "What?" "Enjoying this." I stared. "You think I enjoy this?" "You have them terrified. You created the problem. And you are using it. I have not done anything. That is the problem." He laughed bitterly. "You always do this." "Do what?" "Stand still while everyone else suffers, then claim you never moved." The words hit, because part of them was true. I folded my arms. "Why did you tell Adrienne Meridian owned the system?" "We control it." "No. We have exclusive use. Until December. You always renew." "You fired me." "The license belongs to Mercer Applied Research, not your employment." "You separated me from the company." "I separated governance from marriage. By erasing one founder." "You would not let go." "Of what?" "Anything." His voice rose. "Every system required your approval. Every technical decision returned to you. Every investor asked whether you agreed. Every executive treated me like I needed permission from my wife." I stared at him. So, this was humiliation. For both of us. "No." I stepped closer. "You were embarrassed that people knew you needed me." His face tightened. "You made sure I needed you." Silence. There it was. The sentence nobody had said. I looked away. Daniel continued. "You kept the patents outside Meridian. To protect them. You kept final architecture control. For safety. You refused every transfer. For independence. You built a company that could never outgrow you. That is not true." "Isn't it?" I opened my mouth. Nothing came. He nodded. "You wanted recognition?" "Yes." "You deserved it." The admission surprised me. "But you also wanted insurance." I looked at him. "Against what?" "This." He gestured between us. "You expected betrayal." "No." "You prepared for it." "I watched what happened to my mother." "I am not your mother's partner." "No." I swallowed. "But I treated you like you might become him." Daniel laughed once. And then I did. Neither of us spoke. He looked older, not defeated, just tired. "I was wrong," he said. I waited. "I should never have fired you publicly." "No." "I should not have removed your name." "No." "I convinced myself Meridian needed one story. Yours. The company's. Same thing." He looked down. "Maybe." Then he handed me a folder. "What is this?" "Employee exposure. Pension holdings, stock compensation, layoff scenarios, hospitals depending on upcoming upgrades." The numbers were brutal. "You brought me consequences?" "Yes." "To frighten me?" "To remind you they exist." My anger returned. "You think I do not know?" "I think you know intellectually." "And emotionally?" "I think you are hurt enough to call damage justice." I slapped him. The sound echoed through the lobby. Lena stood behind the glass door. Daniel touched his cheek. He did not move. I whispered, "You fired me from my life." "I know." "No." My voice broke. You fired me from the thing I gave up having children to build. His face changed. We never discussed that publicly. At 36, we delayed children for a product launch. At 38, for expansion. At 40, for regulatory approval. At 42, a doctor told us time had narrowed. Daniel wanted to try. I said Meridian needed me. He accepted that answer too quickly. Sometimes I hated him for it. Sometimes I hated myself more. I continued. You took the thing I chose instead. Daniel looked at the floor. I know. No, you don't. I do. You still have it. He looked up. No. His eyes were wet. I have the title. That was the first time I saw the cost on his side. It did not excuse him, but pain becomes more complicated when the person who caused it is not enjoying the result. The board scheduled an emergency meeting. This time, I attended as licensor, not founder, not wife. Licensor. My attorney sat beside me. Adrian sat across. Daniel sat at the far end. The chairman began. We need certainty. So do I said. What do you require? I opened my proposal. Permanent public attribution of the original architecture. Independent clinical safety authority. A research trust. Employee protections. No layoffs tied to the licensing dispute. Correction of investor disclosures. Daniel's resignation as executive chairman. The room exploded. One director said, "Absolutely not." Another called it retaliation. Daniel said nothing. Adrian read every page, then asked, "What does Mercer Applied Research receive? Royalty continuation? No transfer payment?" No. The chairman frowned. You rejected $200 million. Yes. Why? Because I do not want to sell the work. Then this is control. Yes. The room became still. I had finally said it. Not stewardship, not independence, control. I want the authority to prevent my work from being rewritten. Adrian looked at me. And who prevents you from misusing that authority? Nobody spoke. I closed the proposal. That was the question. Who protected Meridian from me? For years, I believed Daniel was the danger. Now I sat holding a contract that could frighten an entire company. Maybe power does not become moral because the right person holds it. Maybe everyone believes they are the right person. The board rejected my proposal. The deadline passed. For the first time in 17 years, I did not sign. At midnight, the license expired. Nothing dramatic happened, no alarms, no servers shut down. Hospitals continued operating. People went to sleep. Then morning arrived. Meridian issued a regulatory notice. Meridian. New installations paused. 3 hospital networks delayed expansion. The stock dropped 14%. By Friday, 27%. News outlets called it a founder dispute. Analysts called it governance failure. Employees called it terrifying. Daniel called me 14 times. I did not answer. Then Nora came to the laboratory. She looked furious. You won. No. Engineering froze hiring. I know. Contractors were released. That was not necessary. They are conserving cash. They promised no layoffs. The board did not accept your proposal. My proposal protected employees. After you created the threat. The words cut. Nora had defended me for 6 years. Now she looked ashamed. My brother works in implementation, she said. I remembered. He has twins. I know. Do you? I stared. She continued. You told us Meridian was family. It was. No. Her voice broke. It was yours. Then she left. That evening, I opened the original license. I read my signature from 17 years earlier. Dr. Evelyn Mercer. The ink looked confident. Younger. Certain. I remembered Daniel beside me. Cheap champagne. Paper cups. He kissed my forehead and said, No one will ever take this from you. Maybe that promise was the problem. Nothing built with other people remains only yours. Not forever. The next morning, Adrian called. A hospital in Maine is delaying a verification upgrade. Existing systems remain supported. This facility needs the new medication module. They can use the previous version. It has a higher manual review burden. That is not unsafe. No, she paused. But nurses will carry the difference. I closed my eyes. How many? 47. She did not exaggerate. That was why I believed her. What do you want? A temporary extension. The board rejected employee protections. I am not the board. You are CEO. I am trying to keep people working while two founders punish each other. The words were cruel. True. What term? 6 months. No. 3. No. 30 days. I looked at my mother's photograph on the shelf. She spent her career watching other people profit from her work. She died believing ownership would have saved her. Maybe it would have. But ownership had become my hiding place. 7 days, I said. Adrian exhaled. What happens after 7? We solve it. And if we cannot? Then we stop pretending the company can survive by choosing one founder over the other. The final negotiation lasted 6 days. Daniel resigned. Not because I demanded it. Because Adrian did. She told the board trust could not return, while the person who misrepresented ownership remained chairman. Daniel retained his shares, lost his title, lost his office, lost the public identity he chose over our marriage. My name returned to Meridian's history. Not as Daniel's wife, not as a contributor, as co-founder and original systems architect. The company created an independent scientific trust. Mercer Applied Research transferred the core architecture into the trust. Not Meridian, not me. The trust. No founder could withdraw it. No board could erase its origin. No spouse could use it as leverage. I gave up the key. That was the hardest part. The company stabilized. The stock recovered slowly. Most employees kept their jobs. Some contractors did not return. That remains part of the story. People like clean endings. There was nothing clean about mine. 3 months later, I attended Meridian's annual clinical summit. My name appeared on the main screen. Large, correct? People applauded. For years, I imagined that moment. I expected satisfaction. Instead, I thought about Nora's brother, the contractors, the nurses in Maine. Recognition arrived carrying receipts. After the event, Adrian found me backstage. You were good, she said. I spoke for 12 minutes. You did not insult anyone. Growth. She smiled. Then handed me a document. What is this? Permanent chair appointment to the Scientific Trust. I read it. No unilateral licensing authority. No. No founder veto. No. Good. She studied me. Do you mean that? I'm learning. She nodded. Daniel is outside. My hand stopped. Why? He asked to see you. Daniel stood near the loading entrance. No suit, no assistant, no company car. He looked like the man I met in Boston. Older, quieter, human. I watched your speech, he said. Did you? You corrected the founding story. Yes. You did not erase me. No. He looked down. You could have. Yes. Why didn't you? I thought about it. Because accuracy is not revenge. He nodded. We stood in silence. Then he said, I was afraid. Of me? Of disappearing beside you. The honesty hurt. I thought everyone saw me as the salesman. You were good at selling. That sounded kinder 17 years ago. I know. He smiled slightly, then looked toward the building. I thought if Meridian proved it could survive without you, it would prove I mattered. And did it? No. He looked at me. It proved we designed dependence and called it partnership. I swallowed. That was true. What happens to us? He asked. I looked at my wedding ring. I still wore it. Not from hope. Habit. We are not a company problem. No. And we are not solving 30 years in a parking lot. 17. It felt longer. He laughed. Then I removed the ring. His expression changed. "I'm not giving this back because you fired me," I said. He waited. "I'm giving it back because neither of us knew where the marriage ended and Meridian began." I placed it in his hand. He closed his fingers around it. "Will you forgive me?" "Not today." "Someday?" "I don't know." For once, uncertainty did not feel cruel. It felt honest. I walked toward my car. Daniel called my name. I turned. "I am sorry," he said. "Not founder to founder, not chairman to architect, just Daniel." I nodded. Then I left. 6 months later, I moved out of our house. Daniel kept it. I bought a smaller place near New Haven, close to the laboratory, close to the water. The first room I designed was not an office. It was a kitchen. That mattered. Nora eventually spoke to me again. Her brother found another job. She never told me I was forgiven. I never asked. Adrian remained CEO. Meridian expanded more slowly, more honestly. Every new employee learned the real founding story. Not the romantic version, not the investor version, the true one. Two people built something together. One feared being erased, one feared being overshadowed. Both created protections. Both called those protections love. And eventually, the walls they built to feel safe became the reason they could no longer reach each other. A year after the license dispute, I visited the company archive. Behind glass sat the first server Daniel and I bought. Beside it was our original license, my signature at the bottom. The museum label read, "This agreement protected Meridian's founding technology during its earliest years." Its later expiration led to major governance reforms. Accurate. Incomplete. Most history is. A young engineer stood beside me. She did not recognize me. She read the display and said, "Imagine having one signature that powerful." I looked at my younger name behind the glass. Then I said, "The dangerous part isn't having the power." She turned. "What is?" I watched employees moving through the building we had once cleaned ourselves. "The dangerous part is believing pain always gives you the right to use it." Then I walked away. For the first time, nothing in the building needed my permission to continue. And strangely, that was when it finally felt like part of me again.